Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about round brushes. I love round brushes, I use them all the time. They are the most versatile type of brushes for painting, and they can be used in a variety of ways. For example, you can use the tip of the brushes, the side of the brush, and in case you need, you can also use the back of the brush. So today we're going to review these three brushes, the Vinci Casaneo, the Vinci Cosmotop Mix B and the Escoda Ultimo. We're going to make a comparison between these brushes that are all size 12 and other two brushes I've been using for a while now, so they don't have a point because they are dry. They'll have a point once they get wet. This is the Escoda Perla and the Jackson Icon. Lovely brushes. You can see the difference between dry brushes where the glue has been completely removed and new brushes where the glue is still in place. Now, between these brushes, I love how the Escoda Ultimo have a nice round belly and goes nicely to a point. I'm really curious to test this and see how it behaves. But I'm also very curious to test the Cosmotop Mix B, because between all of these that are synthetic, the Cosmotop Mix B is actually a blend. And if I get it right, it should be a blend between a Koniski Red Sable, Russian Blue Squirrel, a Russian Peach, which is a black sable, and synthetic hair. So I really have good expectation for the Cosmotop Mix B to be very absorbent and still be able to keep the point. So let's go ahead and see how they perform with their quality of lines, their handling, and their water absorbency. But before doing that, we need to get rid of the glue that binds the hair of these brushes together. So how to do that is absolutely avoid to play with the hair between your fingers while it's dry. It's just going to ruin the brush hair and is going to affect its shape. What we need is a container that we're going to fill with water. We gently submerge our brush, go around until the glue is completely dissolved. Avoid to just drop your brush in the container because it will fall on the tip of the brush and definitely damage the tip of your brush. So let's go ahead, let's do this for all the three brushes and then we'll proceed with the comparison. And here we are. Perla and Jackson Icon have seen some mileage. The Perla is still plenty sharp. It's amazing for details, but because his point is so sharp, it also means that it's a bit on the stiffer side. So if you prefer to paint details and smaller, and you are the one that stay closer to your painting while painting, then this might be just the perfect brush for you. On the other hand, the Jackson Icon is a bit softer, doesn't have the same pronounced point, but still very thin, and you can still achieve very thin lines with this point. Highly advised if your style is more towards the loose. And let's check the new addition to the collection. We have the Ultimo, Casaneo, Cosmotop Mix B, and the Cosmotop Mix B in size 16. The two full synthetic ones really surprised me for how well its point keep after being wet and the glue all removed. See, mixed brush with natural hair and synthetic hair has a bit more of a dull tip. The 12 especially compared to the 16 one. 16 seems to retain the tip a little bit better. But let's analyze the size 12 first. I tend to prefer the shape of the two synthetic ones. We should see though how they're going to behave once you are actually painting with them. Okay, so now they are all wet. And naturally the Perla is the sharpest point. It has a very strong spring to it. While the Cosmotop, I have to say, I'm a bit disappointed with this point. I'll wet it a bit more. It has a bit of a sable behavior to it, where one side will always stay a little flatter, while the other side is going to have this fine cutting edge. The Escoda Ultimo, I have to say I really like the shape of this brush. It's all synthetic hair and supposed to mimic the behavior of squirrel hair. And in fact it does, at least in the shape. It has a very nice round belly and tapers nicely towards a point. Then there is Da Vinci Casaneo. It looks like Da Vinci makes brushes that are a little longer. These are all same size 12. The width of the ferrule is slightly wider and also the hair is a little longer. This is synthetic hair, the Casaneo, and it's also supposed to mimic the behavior of squirrel hair. So it goes to a nicer point than the Cosmotop, and it has a very nice belly, even though a little less pronounced than the Escoda Ultimo. And this is probably the softest one. And then there is a brush that I like a lot from Jackson, the Icon. It's somewhere in between all of the previous brushes. It's not supposed to be a fancy brush. It's a bit stiff with a springiness that comes closer to the Perla, able to keep somewhat of a nice shape. I really use this a lot for figures or where I don't need to have sharp details. Now let's see how do they compare. First we'll try to analyze the water capacity of each brush. Alright, forgot to mention that this is a rough paper. Now let's try the Icon from Jackson. I don't expect this to be the one holding the most water, but you might be surprised. Exactly. Well, let's try the Da Vinci Casaneo. Then we try the Escoda Ultimo. And last, the Da Vinci Cosmotop. I expect this to have a bit more water capacity because it's a mix of natural hair with synthetic hair. So let's see how it performs. Let's add more water, so to have the brush dripping wet. Let's see how it performs with the point. It's a pretty sharp line if you take it on the right side, so this side will stay flatter, which is still good. They don't need to be sharp all the time. A flatter brush can be very useful for drawing people, for example, or faces. You don't need to have a point. Let's try now the Vinci Casaneo. Yeah, it's definitely has a better point. Yeah. To be able to have the sharpest line, you really have to just slightly touch the paper with it. It's very soft, that's why, and it's also very long. Let's go with the Escoda Ultimo. Yes, it's very similar to the Casaneo, but because the bristle, the length of the hair, is slightly shorter, it's perhaps slightly easier to handle. Yeah, they're very similar. Both the Casaneo and the Escoda Ultimo, both very similar. With the Casaneo being slightly softer, the Perla. This, compared to the others, is a bit more used. It's been one of my first brushes. Love it. Very useful for details. Let's do it here. It's dry. Yeah. Yeah, it's a nice point. Very sharp. And now let's try the Jackson Art icon. This is a nice brush as well. A little less sharp, but you can still achieve very fine lines if you orient it the right way. This also is meant to imitate sable a bit like the Da Vinci Cosmotop Mix B. So they both have a very similar behavior on the paper. But this one is a very nice inexpensive brush to have. So we've now rinsed off the brushes and give a nice flick to them, and you can see how they regained their points. All very sharp, except really from the Jackson Art icon, but this is not really its strength. However, if you are going to have a look at all these marks, you're going to see that it's hard to recognize which brush made which mark. This is because they are more or less all very similar. Now, apart from the Escoda Perla, that has its strength really in being the thinnest with the smallest belly, but the sharper point, the stiffer one. So this one is always going to be with me when I need crispier details and finer lines. The others are more or less very similar in behavior. However, these 4 brushes, 2 of them, the Escoda Ultimo and the Casaneo da Vinci, are meant to imitate squirrel hair, while the Icon and the Da Vinci Cosmotop Mix B are supposed to imitate sable hair. However, the Icon is fully synthetic, while the Cosmotop, as we said before, is a mix of natural hair and synthetic hair. Which one will I choose between these 4 brushes? So, between the squirrel imitation ones, the Da Vinci Casaneo and Escoda Ultimo, I would probably go for the Escoda Ultimo. I like its shape more, and I felt I had a better handling of the brush. Instead, for the sable imitation one, I would probably keep using my Jackson icon. Few reasons. First of all, the price difference is quite substantial. This because the icon is fully synthetic, and also because I already have a brush specialized in details, which is the Perla, and one that has a very nice water retention, which is going to be the Escoda Ultimo. And I feel like the Jackson icon can be right in between, filling the gap. However, what you can also take from this video is the realization that a lot of these brushes behave very similarly one another. And what really makes a difference, it's consistent practice. Anyway, back to these brushes, which one would you choose? Let me know in the comments below if you have any of these brushes, how you like them, and if you recommend them. Hope you liked this video, and if you're interested in checking out any of these brushes, I will leave the links in the description. You can find them there. Hope to see you soon in the next video. Bye!